Hi, John here, the hat guy. So we're all a couple of weeks into this house arrest, for want of a better term. Call it what you want. It's a mandatory stay-at-home order, and it's a mandatory close your business down or else order, and it's a mandatory don't stay in our hotels order, at least here in Florida, and it's a mandatory don't come in the state if you're from certain other states. It's house arrest. You can't be within 6 feet of anybody. You can't be in a crowd of any size. Aside from the virus, which, if you're paying attention, the numbers still don't make any sense to me. But aside from that, what other reason would anyone possibly have for instituting these kind of rules? I can't think of any other than to make sure we don't rise up when they take our rights away. They've already taken away the First Amendment right, at least a significant portion of it. They're threatening to, in New York, they're threatening to not allow a church to start up again if it doesn't shut down. Here in Florida, we had a pastor get arrested for not shutting his church down, and then the governor got on and said, no, we're not going to do that, so he got released. So there's a battle going on, and we're only seeing little bits and pieces of it. The battle is over who is going to have control over everything. That includes us. We are merely a commodity to them. So that's what's really going on. Is there a virus out there? Yes, I'm sure there is. Is it deadly? Yes, most viruses are. The common cold is deadly, so is the common flu. They're both deadly under certain conditions. This is no different. And the numbers don't add up for the level of panic. The level of panic only adds up if there's a nefarious plot brewing, as I've been saying. Now, several days ago, got into a online conversation with an acquaintance of mine from several states away. I haven't seen him in many years, but we've met, and that's about it. In the past, we have shared mindedness, for want of a better term, in a lot of things. And 6 or 8 months ago, he started migrating over to the dark side, so to speak. He told me a couple of days ago that my tinfoil hat wasn't tight enough. And of course, my response was, his wasn't tight enough. It's all in how you look at it. The media, and when I say media, I mean all of them. And yes, that includes Fox News. Every media outlet uses a couple of primary sources for the bulk of their news. Some of them also do investigative journalism, but that's kind of rare these days. But it all boils down to there's 2, maybe 3 primary news sources that feeds all of these places. If you start looking at all of them, and yes, there are hundreds if not thousands of news sources out there, and if you look at all of them, you'll see patterns, and the patterns show up in words and key phrases and in that type of thing, and it's repetitive. If you watch a similar story put out by any 20, 40, 100 news sources, you will hear the exact same story worded very slightly different, but the key words and phrases will all be there. They'll all have them. And it's designed to make us think, oh, well, everybody's reporting this. Clearly, this must be the truth. No, they're all reporting the same thing because that's what they're being told to report, because that's what fits the current agenda. But enough about that. So you're asking me right now, well, John, how can the numbers not add up? People are dying. Yes, people are dying. People die every day. You're 3 times more likely to be killed by rabies than you are this particular virus. That doesn't make this virus any less deadly. I saw a chart the other day, and no, I've not been able to back this one up, so I'm kind of going out on a limb by even reporting it, but it said that a cotton mask is 0% effective for a virus. So why are they pushing cotton masks? It's It's all a way to manipulate people. Is a virus deadly? Yes, the virus is deadly. It's very deadly for certain groups of people. It's potentially deadly for anybody, but so is crossing the street. So is riding a bus. So is calling an Uber. You want to talk about deadly? You have no idea what you're getting when you call an Uber. You only have limited idea of what you're getting when you call a taxi. It's marginally better, but not much. It's the bottom line is we have to trust people in this world, because to not trust people, yeah, you will be wearing a tin hat and living in a cave somewhere and not ever speaking to people. But hey, we're not far from that right now, are we? So is the virus deadly? Yes, it is. Are the numbers as big as what they're saying they are? I don't know. The evidence would seem to say not. Good example. Did you know that in the last handful of years, and I don't know the exact number, I want to say it's the last 12 years, but I could be a little off on my number. The city of New York has closed 17 hospitals. 17. So why are their hospitals overrun? Because they closed 17 hospitals. That's simple math. The hospital ship that the military put into New York Harbor, they're complaining because there's nobody on it. There's nobody on it because there's nobody that needs to be on it at the moment. I read an article today about a hospital in Sarasota, Florida, that has to furlough workers because they've got too many empty beds, because it's not as big a deal as what the hype is letting us to believe. And yeah, with people not being allowed to do anything, there's going to be less people getting hurt, and that frees up more beds. And now the hospital is suffering because it doesn't have any patients, or at least not enough to keep it running. All these things make you think, what's really going on? Now, a lot of people, especially all of the conspiracy theory bunch, and hey, you guys are my people, but we've all been talking, and I've been hearing for years that at some point, we're going to rise up and there's going to be some sort of revolution, and we're going to have to defend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights because the government keeps taking them away from us. Well, guess what? Not only did we not rise up, but we've been begging them to take even more of our rights. Maybe not you and I personally, but we as a people, as an American people, have been begging the government in these last few weeks to take even more of our rights. You keep hearing people scream it all the time. And it's the same far left liberal lunatic crazies that really think Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are a good idea. Clearly, neither one of them are. But they keep screaming these same things, like, we shouldn't allow these people to do this, or we shouldn't allow this group of people to do this. Well, we've had issues with that in the past. Pay attention to the hat I'm wearing. No, I'm not a racist. I happen to have ancestors who fought for the South. Did that make them racist? No, it just meant that they were from Virginia. That's all that meant. They fought for their homeland. They were not slave owners. They didn't agree with slavery. And that's kind of my point. The point is, all of these people on the left are the very first ones to accuse anybody on the right of being a racist. They're the ones that are saying all of the rights need to be denied of people in these different groups that don't think or look or act like they do. Well, how is that any different from what happened 160 years ago? There's very little difference. The only difference is it's not the whole world singling out a single group of people. It's a minority of people singling out a whole bunch of other people. And that's just as bad. That kind of thing leads to the chaos that's happened in South Africa as a prime example. Several decades ago, if you were a black man in South Africa, you had no rights. Now, if you're a white man in South Africa, you have no rights. One side is no different than the other side. They're both doing the exact same thing. The only difference is the people in charge have changed. It's the only difference. Racism is racism. Doesn't matter what color someone is or what they think or what they believe. It's all the same. It's hatred and it's bigotry. And it's foolish. And I don't know what we're fighting here. I really don't. If you've watched any of my videos, you've got a good idea of what I think. I don't know for sure what's going on. This could be a trial run. I hope it is, because if it is, that means we've got a chance to get our act together and maybe respond next time it happens. I fear that it's not, and that this is the new norm. What are we seeing now? Well, they've got everything shut down except vital necessities like grocery stores. Even in Vermont, you go into a Walmart in Vermont, you can only buy certain items. You can't buy things that are deemed by the state of Vermont to be non-essential, even though the store sells them and is open. That's craziness. On the other hand, this is a state that has repeatedly elected Bernie Sanders. So why should we listen to them? The point is, they're also American, and the ideas are starting to seep into the minds of the average American. And it's dangerous and it's deadly. And it has to stop. Sadly, I don't think anybody's going to stop them anymore. I have to take my hat off, because the people that fought for this, even though they lost, they were standing up for the Constitution in the way they understood it. We may not agree with some of the things that they thought, but they were legal at the time, and they were standing up for their rights. It's no different than what happened in the 1770s when a group of colonists fought an oppressive foreign government, talking about the American Revolution. Those same mindsets of those people are the same mindsets that the people in the South had during the Civil War. And it's the same mindset that a handful of us have now, or at least thought we did. But sadly, it seems as if those days are gone. Because when they start taking our rights away and telling us, no, you can't congregate here. There are too many people in one group. You can't go to church. You can't go to work. You can't operate your business. You can't sell whatever it is you sell, or provide whatever service you provide to feed your family. But your bills are still going to be there. And okay, here's a check for $1,200, but it's only going to be one. Make it last for the rest of your life, because you may not be able to go back to work, even if all this madness stops right now. How many people have already lost everything? It's sad what is being done to this country right in front of our faces and right under our noses. And we, the people who said we would stand up and utilize our Second Amendment rights and overthrow tyranny when it happens, are doing nothing. It's sad, and it's disgusting. And no, I'm not the person to make the first move. I'm very low down any kind of food chain, believe me. I'm middle-aged and overweight and nearsighted. I'm not going to do a lot. Will I fight? Yes, I will, when called. The problem is nobody is called. Now, there's a few states that are still acting like they got some sense, at least a handful of people in them. Wouldn't surprise me to see a few of them start breaking off if these things continue to go, but it's not what's happening. They're all looking towards the federal government and say, tell us what to do. That's not what a governor is supposed to do. A governor is supposed to govern. Then he's not supposed to look at the president and say, what would you like me to do? He's supposed to look at his people and say, what would you like for me to do? Because you, the people, are who I work for, not the federal government. That's our problem. Our problem is not in the fact that we have too many of the wrong kind of people in the wrong kind of positions. The problem is the fact that we've allowed ourselves to be brainwashed for decades. For decades. Pick up an old textbook and look at it and read it and compare it to what you've been taught in school. I have a collection. You could look around my office. I have a collection of books. I have some very old textbooks. And you'd be surprised at what they say, based on what I was taught. And I graduated high school in 1984. We're several generations into an education system that has done nothing but indoctrinate us into a Soviet-style way of thinking, while still leading us to believe that we're free and that we have choices. And it's beginning to look like we just bought a lie, because clearly we don't. There's not enough of us that think the right way to rise up and do anything at this point. And if so, who's going to lead us? Who's going to make the call? Nobody can. Nobody makes the call. If a handful of people go out and do something, you're just going to get arrested or shot or killed. And that's the end of it. We've allowed ourselves to go down a rabbit hole that we can't dig our way back out of. But that's just my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I pray to God I'm wrong. But I fear that I'm not. I'm John. I'm the Hat Guy. That's my opinion.